8 steps that can help you start your own mechanical outsource estimating service. And we're going to discuss ways you can do this in a relatively cheap fashion. You don't have to spend a fortune. All you have to do is provide a great service to your clients, and you have to have some basic equipment to be able to work with. So we're going to go through that short list, discuss the 8 things that's required for you to actually be able to start your own estimating business from anywhere, whether it's your home office or if you've got a small office. Either way, this will work. So let's get right into it. The first thing you're going to need is to set up a quiet home office. Now, if you've got an office somewhere already, that'll work. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. Most of you don't have that. You're going to start out of your home, and that's exactly where most all of us have started in the past. But the thing is you've got to make sure that this is a very quiet location, either a spare bedroom, or if you've got a den, or perhaps there is room in your basement that's pretty quiet away from everybody else. And I've even known some guys who actually do it in their garage. Back in the day when I started, I actually had a little outbuilding. It was a small shed. So I finished it up. I put in some electric, and that's actually where I started doing my estimating. So whatever space you have that is your space, nobody else around, it's nice and quiet. And the reason it needs to be quiet is because you are going to get into this new venture, and you want to give the projects that you're going to be estimating for your clients all the time and focus that they deserve. You can't be distracted with phone calls or with the television or radio blaring. If you have children, it's kind of hard to make sure that they can keep it down. They've got to play. That's what kids do, and they're going to be noisy. So you can't have all these interruptions throughout the day. And if you can't find a quiet place inside the home, then you might need to look outside the home. But pretty much everyone can find somewhere that they can dedicate to themselves and keep everybody else at bay. If it's got a door, go ahead and use the door, lock it, keep people out so they don't interrupt you. Because what we do is very serious business. We are asking clients to trust us to bid multi-million-dollar projects to make them a profit. And if you can't focus on that project as you do the counts and you take everything off and you figure up all of your totals, if you get distracted at the wrong time and something gets through the crack, you could cost your clients a lot of money. So don't do that. Make sure you've got the space you need. If you don't have the space inside your home, look outside of it. Another thing you're going to want for that home office is you're going to want to use a large TV, preferably at least a 32-inch, for your monitor. The reason you want to use a TV for your monitor is because you need something very large working with blueprints. The blueprints we normally work with, spread them out on the table. They're about 3 feet by 4 feet. Try to condense that down to a 15-inch computer screen, although it is possible. You can do it. I actually have had to do it in the past in a pinch. The other thing I can highly recommend is that you go ahead and splurge on a really nice, comfortable chair. I don't care what kind of desk you use. I don't care if you have a desk. If not, use a folding table. I started out with a folding table, and I used that for about the first 6 months. The only thing your desk is for is to set your laptop or your keyboard on, maybe a pen, and perhaps your phone. What you need to focus on is your comfort, and that chair needs to be comfortable. So spend some money on the chair, skimp on the desk, and do yourself a favor. The second thing you need to do before you can open your own business and work for yourself as a mechanical estimator is you need to think up a name for your new operation. I want you to use a nice, catchy, descriptive name. You could use your own name. A lot of people do. But unless you are very well known in the industry, is anybody going to know what your name means or what you do? To call yourself Joe Smith Mechanical Estimating is fine. But Mr. Joe Smith, if they don't know who you are, it doesn't really tell them a whole lot. It just says that Joe Smith is willing to take my money and bid my jobs. If they see Joe Smith Mechanical Estimating, they might stop at Joe Smith and not even read the rest of the name. So you want to use a name that's catchy, something that describes what you do, and something that once people understand the name, they'll remember it. So for instance, my company name was QuickSum LLC. The reason I named it QuickSum is because we could very quickly sum up the project cost. And as soon as I told anybody what our name was and why that was our name, they never forgot it. So I highly suggest that you pick something really catchy, very descriptive, and very memorable. Now, let's say in your industry, you're very well known. Let's say you have been a plumbing contractor or an electrical contractor or a heating contractor or whatever for years. And so there's a lot of people in the entire industry across the nation that know you because you've gone to a lot of events, you've gone to the trade shows, you've made a lot of contacts, a lot of social networking. In that case, because they already know who you are and that you're great at what you do, using your name would probably make sense. And I would say go ahead and do that. Otherwise, if people don't know you, you don't have time to educate people on what your name means. To them, it's just your name. They don't know anything else. So go ahead and pick something else that's going to describe the business you represent. The third thing you want to do, and I would suggest you go ahead and do this now. Don't make it one of the last steps. Make it one of the first because it takes a little bit of time to get this accomplished. Is you've got to form a legal company structure. Now, as far as a legal structure, you've got some options. You could do an LLC, either a C Corp or an S Corp, or you could do an actual corporation. But I do suggest you do not start out as a DBA. And here's the reason why. Now, remind you, I'm not an attorney. I am not giving you legal advice. I'm just giving you my personal advice. I suggest that you form some sort of a legal company, because when you operate as a DBA, which is doing business as your name, you have absolutely no safeguards legally. So if anybody wants to come after you for any ramifications of a past bid that you've done, there's really no umbrella of protection for you at all. So everything you're doing is for you and your family's future. So if you want to do this properly, you want to protect yourself, you want to protect your family and all of your assets. So go ahead and find yourself a really good attorney and let them go through all of the options of what kind of legal structure you could set up and which one might be best for you based on exactly what your company goals are going to be. You know, I don't know what your future goals are for the company, but from a mechanical estimating standpoint, I do know that when you're bidding projects for other people, you could make mistakes. Whether they can win in court or not based on the mistakes you might make is irrelevant, because of the fact that they still could sue you and drag you through the process, which is going to cost you a lot of money and drag your name through the mud. So, you know, make sure you're protected so that even though they probably may or may not win, at least you've got the protection that protects you personally, and they're just going to drag your company into this process. So form yourself a legal structure. An LLC is probably the best thing. But if you want to go with a big company and you want to hire a lot of people, you might just want to go ahead and be a corporation. I don't know. Talk to your tax advisors, talk to your attorneys, and let them help you decide that. But at the end of the day, absolutely form some sort of a legal structure. Do not use a DBA. Don't use just your name on your documents and your own personal social security number. You need that tax ID for a company so that everything is protected behind that. Well, now that you've gotten most of the basic boring mumbo jumbo crap out of the way, the fourth step in the process is where things start to become a little more entertaining, a little more in your wheelhouse, if you will. Because as an estimator, we like to deal with, the process of doing the takeoff and counting and getting the quotes. And that, that's really the heart and soul of what we enjoy. So this part is where you need to take a focus on exactly where your business is going to go. You need to find estimating software. And you need to find the estimating software that is going to suit you and your future clients' needs. If you're not familiar with takeoff software, there is a lot of manufacturers out there. A lot of them are all equally great. The big difference from one manufacturer to another can be some of the elements, some of the bells and whistles that the software is going to offer. And just because the software is $15,000 and has everything in the world you could want doesn't mean you need it. Because as an estimator, more often than not, most of the times, we simply prepare the bid estimate and then we send our spreadsheets back to the client. And that's pretty much all we're going to provide them with. However, I do know that there are some people out there who perform this service, and the clients also would like to have not only the spreadsheets back, but they want the actual project files from whatever software they use. I'm going to throw some names of software out there. I don't really endorse any of them. I don't really have one recommendation from one to the other. I don't get paid anything extra if you choose one. So I'm just going to give you my personal knowledge of what I know about some of these software manufacturers. One of those being QuoteSoft. QuoteSoft is great. I've worked with it with other clients. I actually had a client back in the day that the only way they would work with me is if I had this product, because that's what they had. And why they wanted me to have it was when I was done, they wanted me to send the entire takeoff project files back to them so that they could import it into their software on their end. After they run a project, they could then take that data and send it out to their own internal metal manufacturing shop. So they actually made more sheet metal than they installed. They provided a lot of sheet metal for a lot of companies on a lot of projects that we would provide the bids for. So what they were really needing was all of that data that's already been figured and calculated so they can send it out to their equipment in the shop, and it can start, the plasma cutters and things like that can start manufacturing the duct based on the takeoff that we've already done. That doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. So, you want to look at what you're going to do, what you're going to offer, what kind of clients are you going to be working with? How much level of service do you want to offer your clients? By that, I mean, are you just a takeoff service? Do you just count everything and then send everything back to them so they can finish the bid? Or do you provide all of the takeoff and the counts? Do you help them get their quotes from their suppliers and subcontractors? Do you take all the data and put it into a spreadsheet and help them find that base bid total? Or do you send it back to them and let them finish? So it depends on how you run your company as to what some elements are that you are not going to need, or you might want to think about in the software that you're going to buy. Now, I can tell you the pricing for software can run from a couple $100 to tens of thousands of dollars per system. And so you want to know exactly what you need, because you don't want to run out there and buy a $500 product when you need a $10,000 one. But even more importantly, you do not want to spend $10,000 on a product you don't need. So make sure you know what you need before you go buy it. Now, if you were wise enough to build a business plan, which I've not mentioned business planning in these first 8 steps, and maybe I should have, I kind of expected that you would do that before you ever got to step 1, because the absolute step 1 of any business is to sit down and take a few minutes to build a business plan. Because once you have the business plan, then you know exactly what everything else is that needs to be accomplished. So, even though we're on step 4, and I haven't mentioned it, I'm mentioning it now. I'm assuming you have a business plan, and that business plan will help you decide what kind of software you need. Because in that business plan, you should already know who your potential clients are going to be. So with that information, it's going to help you spend your money a whole lot more wisely than it's going to help you see now, before you get to the end of the road, what money you need to spend where. So the 5th thing that you probably want to do is go ahead and set yourself up with some accounting software. You're going to be purchasing software to do the takeoffs with. You're going to have to buy yourself a desk and a chair and maybe a computer and all these other things. It's not going to be a lot to keep track of at first, but over time, it's going to become a little more than you want to try to keep up with. So get some really good accounting software. And a lot of the good software today out there allows remote access from your accountant to be able to get into your software from wherever they're located. Your accountant now, if you're using something like FreshBooks or QuickBooks or one of those, can simply log into your account from your computer and go through and do all of your bookkeeping for you, and you never even really have to interact with them. So make sure you get yourself some decent software, track every single dollar that you spend and every single dollar that you generate, and then let your accountants have remote access to get in there and do your books. Now, the 6th thing that we're going to discuss is probably one of my favorite. We're going to start talking about how you're going to build a website to market your business. You've got the software, you've got your office set up, you have an accountant. So you're getting to that point too where you're going to start generating some money here soon. But first of all, before you generate money, you've got to find clients. So the best way to do that is to build a website so you can market yourself and your business. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. You could build it yourself. You could use WordPress. If you know how to use WordPress, you're already way ahead of the game. If you don't, I suggest using WordPress and then going online between the WordPress tutorials that they have, YouTube videos. There is a multitude of people out there that can walk you through how to build your own WordPress website. The nice thing about a WordPress site is you can add any type of element in the future that you want to bring into it. You're going to be able to plan really easy today to build a basic website. And as you evolve with your business, if you need more integrations like credit card processing through your website or other type of apps that you want to add to your website or widgets, it's all going to be very simple to add in later. If you don't want to get into all that, if all you ever want is just a marketing website, maybe you just want to go with a what you see is what you get kind of builder. Someone that comes to mind is like Wix, or perhaps Squarespace. I know those two are very prevalent. And those are really easy to use because they are what you see is what you get. When you're in there building your website, exactly how you see it is exactly how it's going to turn out. You don't have to know any kind of coding. You don't have to put in any special elements. You don't have to do any formatting. Everything's already done for you. Go in and pick a template and then start adding your own verbiage and start adding your own pictures or videos. It's really simple to do. And if you ever want to graduate from that to a WordPress site, you could do that too. For one of the easiest ways to build a website, I would suggest using a what you see is what you get. Things to remember as you build your website, though, be sure that you state exactly what you're going to provide and exactly what a customer can expect to get back from you. Do some research, do a quick Google search for whatever field you're in. If you're electrical, HVAC, plumbing, drywall, whatever you are, do a quick search of who's out there and go through their websites and see what they're like. I don't think you should go out there and copy the websites you're finding. I think you should go out there and find the websites and find the great elements of those websites to bring into yours. But I think the majority of your website needs to be original. It needs to be unlike the others. And in that process, you need to very clearly state what your services are that you provide. Are you just a takeoff service? Do you just do the counts and give it back to customers? Or do you provide complete bids? Do you do all of the takeoff process? Do you get the bids and the subquotes from your contractors and from their suppliers? And do you put all the numbers together and give them the full base bid, total, and alternate prices? So make sure that's clear in your website. That way, before they contact you, they kind of know exactly what they're dealing with, who they're dealing with, and what you're going to have to offer them. Another thing you might want to think about is your website going to need an integration process for file sharing. Something that kind of works like Dropbox, but it's your own on your own website. Some guys do offer that. It's a little more convenient. People have one place to go to, your website, and they can go in there and load the files, and then you can go back to your site and download them from that server, and you'll have the files to work with. If you don't want to get into all of that, like many people don't, go ahead and use something that's already out there that most people already use. If they're using a bid plan room, something like perhaps, I don't know, Dodge or I Square Foot. And again, I'm throwing names out there because I'm not endorsing them. It's just people that I know who offer these services. If they're often going to be sending you files for you to work with, maybe you need something like Dropbox or Google Documents. Again, that business plan you built in the beginning will probably help guide you down this process of exactly what you need and don't need in your website. So only you can decide that, but make sure you think these things out before you decide to start building one. The reason why you need to know these things up front: if you're going to hire someone to build your website, a really good idea is for you to go ahead and build a template. Build yourself a template, whether it's in a Word document, or perhaps you could use something like PowerPoint. I often use PowerPoint, where each PowerPoint slide would represent a web page. And I would put some basic elements on there that I want them to have. Like maybe I want to have a left side navigation bar, or maybe I want to make sure that there's a certain layout that I want certain pictures to be in certain orders on certain pages. Because if you can figure this out before you get somebody else involved, they have a better, clearer understanding of what it is you expect in the end result. If you don't do that process, it's going to take them a long time to build this the way you see it in your head. And it's also going to cost you a lot more money than you probably expected to pay for it. Save yourself time and save yourself money. Build yourself a really nice template idea of what you think it should look like, and then give that to them for them to work with it. If you're doing it yourself, maybe that's not such a big deal, because you're going to be working out of your vision, out of your head, and you're going to be putting it together on a what you see is what you get or a WordPress site. So maybe that process isn't necessary, but if you're going to hire somebody out, that is a very necessary process to save yourself time and money. The next step in order for you to get paid is you're going to want to set yourself up with a credit card service. You could accept checks. Some people do still write checks, but even a lot of people now who accept checks are using it through their credit card services. Their providers usually offer the option to collect credit cards and process them, or you could do electronic checks. One big advantage to doing electronic checks is the fees are far, far less than credit cards. It's about 0.5 to 0.75% fee for processing an electronic check, whereas you're going to pay, 2 to 4 or 4.5% on processing a credit card. So you'll get a little more profit at the end of the year if you process your checks that way. But most people don't even want to use checks at all. They're working off of credit because that's how they run their business. Everything goes on their Amex, and then each month they pay the Amex bill, and they're going to want to pay you that way. So you're going to have to set up, either way, you have to set up a credit card service provider. That way you've got all these options available, so that when people want to pay you, you can't say, "I'm sorry, I don't accept that payment," because you've already begged them for your business. And now that you've got their business, you have to accept whatever form of payment they've got to offer. The other nice thing about credit cards is it's more secure for them, and it's more secure for you. With checks can bounce. You can get hit with overdraft fees on your end. They'll get hit with the overdraft fees on their end. And so just save yourself the whole hassle and cost of doing business through the check process with your credit card processor. Just that quickly, we're down to the final step, the 8th step. You've got everything in place. You have set up your office. You've got your website built. You're set up with credit cards. You are ready to roll. The only problem is you don't have anybody to do the work for. So your 8th step is very simple. You need to get out there and promote yourself. Now, how are you going to do that? People don't usually have a lot of money to spend on marketing. They don't really necessarily want to go out and pay an agency to promote them. And quite honestly, I don't think you need to do that. I think you can do this all by yourself, just like I have for the last 10 years. Just go out there and find innovative ways to reach the people that you need to reach. Some of the suggestions I have is, one thing you could do is write yourself a blog. By writing a blog, you are doing two things. You're getting in front of the people and giving them an idea of who you are and what you have to offer. But more importantly, based on how well your blogs are written, they start to see really very clearly how much you know and that you're at the top of your game. By reading the blogs that you have written, explain to people exactly what it is that you know and exactly how you know it and why you're so good at what you do. So I think blogs are probably one of the most crucial points in your business. You can spend all your money if you want to on Google Ads, or you could go and hire somebody to do all your marketing for you. Nobody can market your business like you. Nobody knows what you know about you. So if you want to tell people that, the best way to do it is with a blog. If you want to get really high tech and you're not afraid of a camera, turn that blog into a vlog. Get a video camera, set up a YouTube channel, and whatever you would put into a written blog format, do it in a video format. Because now people not only hear the information, they get to see you personally. And so they can make that connection with you. Bottom line is, people do business with people they like. So if they like you, they like your YouTube channel, they like your videos, then they're going to want to do business with you. So why not put yourself out there? You know, it wasn't that long ago, the only way we could drum up business was face to face. We had to beat down doors and go meet clients. And that was a very good way to do business because you knew them and they knew you. You felt really comfortable working with one another because you've seen each other in person, face to face. You've had conversations together. We don't really do business that way anymore. Most of the business is conducted online. It's through our websites. It's through written word. 9 times out of 10, people in our industry don't even know what each other look like unless you've gone the extra mile and you have either done video vlogs or you have set up video chats with them, or I have actually gotten on a plane and I have flown to see these clients before or driven to wherever their location is. You need that personal connection because people are going to do business with people they like. And if they like you, they're going to hire you. And also if they like you and they've hired you and you do some crazy thing like make a small mistake, they're a little more likely to forgive you because they know you. If I don't know you and it's just business and you make any kind of a small mistake, I'm not going to be very lenient about that. But if we're, I won't say we're friends, but, we socially know one another, you're going to have a little more leadway in that. You're going to have a little more leniency. So why not get to know your clients? Now, another way you can do this, if you have a lot of money and money really isn't a big object for you, you've planned this for years and you've saved for it and you knew it was going to cost, you could use something like Google AdWords. If you know how to do really well Google AdWord targeting, it's very successful. When I started out, I actually did that. I got the largest majority of my clients in the beginning from Google AdWords. That was actually how I got the initial contact, not how I landed the contract. Usually I would get the contact by a really good Google AdWords ad or promoting one of my really good blogs through Google AdWords. And see, that's another way you can use that blog. If you've got a really, really good blog that people like and they're receptive to it and they understand, why not promote that blog through Google AdWords? So when people do a search on that topic, they don't find somebody's dead air web page, they find your personal experience written in a blog about that. Now they're going to take that content much more seriously than just a few words on a web page. So those blogs can always come back and pay dividends. But use those Google AdWords. They're going to cost you money. If you've got the budget for it, there's nothing wrong with spending that money on it because you're going to get your ROI if you know how to properly use Google AdWords and target your audience. Also, the content that you have to offer through Google AdWords is going to dictate whether they want to contact you or not. Just because people look at the ad is worthless. You don't care how many people look at the ad. You care how many people respond to the ad. So if you're spending money on it, you need to figure out if it's going to make sense to spend the money. So if you don't have the money to do something like Google AdWords, but let's say you're in a pretty large city. I don't know. Let's just throw some out there. Maybe you're in Cleveland, Ohio, or Denver, Colorado, San Francisco, California. I don't know where you're at, but if you're in a large area, why don't you get out there and go old school, save yourself some money and do some face-to-face contacts. Find some local mechanical contractors that you could service. Go introduce yourself. Tell them about your services. See what they have to say. Sometimes the people you need to get to make the decision to hire you are kind of hard to get in front of. And so if you can't get directly in front of them the first time, don't stop. Go back a second time or a third time. Figure out how to get in front of the person you need to see. I don't know if it's going to be the person that owns the company. Maybe they have an inside estimating division already and you need to talk to their estimating manager. So these are the things you need to figure out. You need to do a little bit of homework on every company you're going to visit before you get there. And again, today's technology, that's not hard. Go on the internet, look them up, find their website. Most often they have an About Us page. A lot of times they even show you who works inside the company and who their names are and what they do. So get to know them. So when you show up in front of them and you introduce yourself, you can kind of let them know you already know a little bit about them. You've done some research on them. You've done some background check and you know who they are. And that's why you think that you have something you can offer them. And even if they're not in your own city, if you've got a few bucks and you've got a decent car or truck and you can afford to drive 1 or 2 hours away to get to the big city, maybe make a plan to go into the town every once or twice a week. Go in there and spend a whole day and see how many people you can try to get in front of. Because once they get to know you personally, you have a better chance of sealing the deal. You can do all the marketing in the world, but again, if people don't like you, they're not going to work with you. So getting in front of them face to face and showing them what you have to offer and get to know each other, see what their needs are and see what it is you could provide them, then it's going to be a lot easier to land some business. Another really good way is to get involved with the local mechanical groups and then network. I know there's a lot of different things out there. There's a lot of different for plumbing, HVAC, electrical. There are a lot of little groups out there. you have different associations for all these different groups. So figure out what they are, maybe sign up for a couple of them. Sometimes they might cost you a little bit. Maybe they'll cost $100 or $200 to join the group. But once you do, you've got access, direct access to the type of people you're trying to reach right in front of you. And sometimes you get lucky. And these local network groups, they have little get-togethers. They might do a lunch once a month where everybody that's part of that network group gets together and they kind of discuss what they have to offer one another. So one final thought on how to get yourself out there and promote your business. This one I've never tried, but I've wanted to. I haven't had a need to. So back many years ago, I started investigating this path and I started to put together a plan, and I was going to go down this path. I was going to start figuring out what it would cost and what I would need to set up at trade shows. And by that, I made specific trade shows for my group. So I'm a mechanical estimator. And so, in the HVAC world, we have a lot of different trade shows across the country. Some are small, some are big, some are local, some are regional. But I always thought that if you really needed business and if you set up a really, really nice booth display at a large trade show event for your specific trade, you are going to be getting directly in front of the people you need to get in front of. These are the people that make the decisions. They go to trade shows to help find solutions to problems that they have in their business. That's what a trade show is for. You are a mechanical estimating service. So you have an absolute solution to their problem. Whether they don't have enough staff or they don't have any staff for estimating, maybe they're currently residential and they want to get into commercial, but they don't really know how to bid commercial jobs. But you do, and that's what you do. At a trade show, that's why they're there. They want to find a solution to their problems, and estimating is quite often one of their problems. If you look around at the trade shows, you're going to see there's usually several manufacturers of takeoff software at the trade show. So if the manufacturers who sell the software to provide the takeoff services are doing well at these trade shows, why can't you? You not only offer the exact same software that they would have to purchase, but you offer the entire service itself. It's going to cost you some money. Trade shows aren't cheap. You got to pay for every square foot of the floor that you're sitting at. And so it can run a few $1,000s for the floor space, and you want to look very professional. You don't want to go in there and just put a little table up and a tablecloth. If that's all you can afford for the first show, then okay, you go for that. You do it. Give it a try. As long as you know that in the long run, to become one of the top players in the game, you're going to need a good booth. You're going to need a nice setup. So at least get yourself a decent backdrop. And you could probably get away with just a really nice backdrop and a desk and put a nice cover on the desk. I would suggest you build a really nice PowerPoint slideshow that represents all of the services you have to offer. If you have samples of the work you've done in the past, and you could provide some spreadsheets in that PowerPoint, or maybe even physical pieces of paper that you could have on the table that they could see what a final product would look like in that spreadsheet, so they know what to expect back if they hire you. But that's pretty much all you need. You need a little bit of literature to pass out a really, really good PowerPoint presentation that's put on a loop that just sits there on your desk on a monitor. That 32-inch monitor you use at home to do the takeoff with, take it down off the wall, pack it up, take it to the trade show, and set it up there to use it for everybody to see what your services are. You got to start somewhere. So start wherever you have to start from. If you've got the cash and the money, then go ahead and spend it. If you don't stress. As long as you can afford to get there, you can afford the floor space, and you can put up a decent backdrop with a table and a tablecloth, you can be successful at a trade show. I feel very confident you could do that. As long as you are confident in speaking with the people that are coming through there. If you're not a confident speaker, if you don't like to public speak, or you don't do real well with strangers, if you've got somebody else with you that can do that, that could help you out, because you're only going to get one shot. They're going to walk in front of your booth. They're going to ask you what you have to offer. And if you don't nail that in 30 seconds or less, they're probably going to move on. So before you pay $3,000 for the real estate to set up at a trade show, assuming that's what it costs, not all of them are that much, but some of the high-end shows, you could pay, anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 just for the floor space. So before you invest the money, make sure you've got the script and the sales pitch figured out and who's going to deliver that. So that's pretty much it. This is not a complicated process. You got to set yourself up with a really quiet home office. That way you can dedicate your time and your focus to all of your clients. You've got to have a good name for your operation. I don't know. You could use your own name if people know who you are. If not, think up something that's catchy that also describes what it is you have to offer. Get yourself out there and form a legal company. Protect everything you're about to build. Protect yourself, protect your family. Don't do something silly and operate this as a DBA to where people can come back and take everything you own. It's not worth it. Go ahead and purchase the proper estimating software that clients need for your level of service. So if you're going to provide full estimates and you want to send all the files back for their shops, you're going to need high-end software. If not, don't spend all the money on the high-end software that you don't need. Get yourself set up with an accountant and get yourself some really good accounting software that the accountant can access from their location, so you don't really have to deal with the accountant that much. You just write them a check every month and they take care of your books. After that, build yourself a website so you can market your business. Make sure to keep all of those things I mentioned before in mind when you build that website to save yourself some time and money. After that website is done, set yourself up with a credit card processor. That way, when you start getting business, you can immediately process funds and put money into your bank account. Finally, you got to promote yourself. Get out there, write a blog, go to trade shows, write some nice advertising and use Google AdWords. Whatever you have available, use it. Go out there and introduce yourself to the local community. Let people know who you are, what you're doing, and what you have to offer. Even if they don't have a direct need for your service, they might know someone who does. So make sure everybody you know knows you and what you do.